must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
This morning, I want to address the issue of Uhuru Kenyatta's legacy. Legacy of His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta of Kenya keeps on moving, keeps on going forward and forward. Since the handshake in 2018, that brought about the peace, the tranquility, the unity of purpose, President Uhuru's star has been rising. All over Africa, people are thinking of using the model that Kenya used to stop any form of violence, chaos on the streets after elections. As you know, all of you are aware that elections in Africa produce two things: after or before or after the voting. Disputed elections, winner takes it all, loser doesn't accept the results. But the Kenyan model takes us miles and miles away from the normal type of democracy. The democracy, a negotiated format, a consensus format. A democracy that gives consensus a chance. A democracy that talks about the future of a country, the unity of a country, as opposed to a fragmented country, polarized country, where most African countries find themselves in. We have seen in the last 10 years or so, most of the elections in Africa have been contested by the opposition. Very few people in Africa, countries in Africa, where opposition has conceded defeat and come up to congratulate the winner. We have seen the South African model has worked very well. The Ghanaian model has worked so well. I don't see any other country in Africa where the models have worked well. I thought it would be Sierra Leone, but today we see the same ethnic tensions, as you can see from the reports that are circulating in the international media and the local media. So elections in Africa are contentious issues. They create a contentious position, create a departing point for the people of Africa, of that particular nation. The legacy of Uhuru Kenyatta, therefore, will be remembered for having brought the tranquility that we have today, the peace, the new format, the new tool of having a better organized civil Africa, an Africa without violence, an Africa without chaos after elections, when the opposition accepts to work for the interests of a nation, not personal interests. This has worked in Kenya, and thank you very much, Your Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta, for the tenacity and the steadfastness that you have guided this handshake up to today. For those who want to mutilate the handshake, belittle the handshake. One lesson learned is to look at Libya. Libya was once a territory we all respected. It is no more. Let's keep the handshake and the legacy of President Uhuru Kenyatta. Thank you.
Good morning to you, and thank you for joining us. This is Good Morning Africa, and we are coming to you from Kenya's capital here in Nairobi. My name is Miriam Ogutu, and before we get into the news making headlines this morning, as we shall be looking at the leading newspapers in the country, I'd like to bring us up to date with the latest in terms of the statistics of COVID-19, and the number of confirmed cases in Kenya today stands at 98,432. The death toll is 1,716. Recovery stands at 81,255 cases. And Uganda, the figures right now stands at 37,948 cases there, and the death toll in Uganda is 303, and recoveries is 13,018. And South Africa, the figures right now stands at 1,259,748 cases. The death toll in South Africa is 34,334 cases, and recovery stands at 1,019,123 cases. And the total figures in Africa this morning is at 2,933,001. The death toll is 95,112, and recoveries in Africa is 2,543,485 cases, and the global statistics have surpassed 92 million cases, and the global deaths have surpassed 1.9 million cases, and the global recoveries have surpassed 65.8 million cases. So that is where we stand, and the world indeed in regards to COVID-19. And just before we get even into the topic today, let me first introduce my panelist, and we have from Nanyuki, Jevan Karanja. Jevan, a very good morning to you.
It's a very good morning to you, Miriam, and good morning to our viewers wherever they are watching us from. And good morning to my friend Douglas Kirimi. Yeah, thank you for having me on the show.
Very well. Douglas, good morning. All the way from Meru.
Good morning, Miriam. Good morning to our crew back at our headquarters in Nairobi. Good morning to my friend Jevan Karanja, and good morning to all our viewers across the world. Good afternoon and good evening, depending on where they are catching this broadcast from.
Okay, thank you so much, and glad to have you both on the show. The rest of the panelists shall join us as we continue. And Rose Gune John, you're saying Uhuru Kenyatta have done a great work after recognizing the hate is affecting this country. Thank you so much for tuning in and for watching, and keep commenting on the comment section there. And I shall be looking at some of your comments as we proceed. Joseph Limo, you're saying talk about Uganda. All right, Joseph Limo. All right, keep writing. I shall go through some of your comments as we continue with the show. And still on the matter of COVID-19, I think for now Kenyans don't even look at those figures anymore. They don't even know. But yesterday, I think it caught my attention. We have significantly gone down in terms of the number of confirmed cases. And, so I think this is a good thing, Douglas.
Yes, Miriam?
I'm saying yesterday, as what caught my attention there is the low figures of COVID-19 infections that are being reported in the country. That is a good sign.
Yes, Miriam, and this is also facilitated by politicians who are led by the defiant Deputy President William Ruto. Imagine, Miriam, without any bias, this is a man who has gone during the COVID here in 2020, trying to do fundraisings for churches, and we know they are discussed as money laundering schemes that the government has stopped. And also, when he says that he wants to fundraise for these churches, I'm on record saying that these churches cannot go anywhere. They will be here next year, and God is not in a hurry building his church, whereas worshippers who will be worshiping him in those churches, most of them are dead. We don't want such a situation, and we also thank the Deputy President for not going on with his campaigns, but we have seen him, he has resumed. He should stop now that the figures are going down so that we can beat this pandemic and also bring our concerted efforts together so that we can fight this virus, so that we don't leave this blame only to the President. The President has not campaigned like the Deputy President wants to be President. So I want to call out the hypocrisy that has been exhibited the last year in 2020 by the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, holding public rallies, shaking hands and killing so many Kenyans and also spreading COVID across the nation. I want to call out also politicians who follow him in the hundreds and also other civic leaders who have been moving across the nation to stop this so that we can beat this virus, Miriam.
Okay, very well. Karanja, the numbers there, the infection of COVID-19 have significantly go down there. That is a good thing.
Yeah, that is something that we celebrate because, Miriam, you understand, last year things were not pretty and it was hectic, even going around with our business.
Okay.
I think with the adherence to the COVID protocols, that is why we have been able to achieve this. Therefore, I urge Kenyans to continue observing the same.
Okay, very well. Thank you so much. And we still urge Kenyans to continue wearing your mask. I think that is the most effective ways. When you wear a mask, you wear it the right way and you wash your hands and you sanitize. And if you keep doing that and social distancing, then perhaps you might win this war against COVID-19. Akidi Mwaga, I see that you've joined us this morning. A very good morning to you.
Good morning, Miriam.
So we were looking at the figures, yes, of COVID-19, and they have significantly gone down yesterday. I think it was about 80-something infections that were reported in the last 24 hours. So that is something to be happy about, but also to caution Kenyans to be even more, careful.
Well, yes, I think part of the success over and above the frontline workers and the initiatives that the government put in place, we must also appreciate the fact that in the past 3 months or so, we've been able to call out the lie that was being peddled by a section of the political class that the pandemic was a lie, and therefore more people have gotten involved in taking these directives by the WHO and Ministry of Health seriously, and therefore that effectively means that we are successfully breaking the virus circuit. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And I know what the headlines of the main newspapers are saying, but this is a conversation that we shall be having at 11 a.m. That one on the Standard newspaper. Now Mudavadi goes for Ruto, and also I see it on... it's not on the Star newspaper, but it's also on the Daily Nation. Fresh threat to push Ruto out. So that is a story that we shall not be looking at right now. But there's also something there on the side, which I think is important. On the Standard newspaper, supermodel Naomi Campbell is Kenya's new tourism envoy. I think that's a good thing. Or are we likely to see a lot of politics, especially from Kenyans, as to why do we have to choose the supermodel to sell Kenya? I think it's a good move. She has the clout that is required for such an important venture, I suppose. Jevan Karanja, what do you make of that?
I think Naomi Campbell possesses the requisite skills, the requisite exposure, and the requisite social capital to sell Kenya successfully to the world. I've seen folks make arguments that why didn't we take our own Lupita Nyong'o, for instance, and then considering that Lupita is a Kenyan, of course, people would want to take a message with a pinch of salt, considering that it would only be natural to expect her to sell Kenya positively. I've also seen a few Kenyans insult the collective intellect of the people of Kenya by suggesting that we should have taken Aziad. Aziad is a young girl that I have respect for, but then I look at how she shot to fame, and I don't think that demonstrated talent that is what putting Kenya on the world map. And so I think people who are making such suggestions are making noise for the sake of making noise. But I think in this case, I concur with this, yes, Balala.
And for what I know, Naomi Campbell loves Kenya so much. She's always visiting Malindi. I think she was dating some guy who was owning a hotel in. She's always in Kenya. Every now and then she visits Kenya, and also I think she has enough influence in the world. She has a fine. I think Lupita Nyong'o could be ideal as well, but you can't compare, the platforms for both ladies. Lupita is wonderful, but Naomi Campbell as well, and the influence she has, I think it's much greater than Lupita Nyong'o. I don't know, Douglas. Are we likely to see a lot of politics?
Before my brother comes in,
yes.
It is also instructive to note that in the year 2008, when the Western world was issuing travel advisory to Kenya, Naomi Campbell was one of those international personalities that came out at the very beginning, from the outset, to send the message to the world that no, the Kenyan coast is safe and you can fly to Kenya and holiday in Kenya. Mm-hmm. And so these things she has done consistently. Mm-hmm. It is only natural that she is a person she possesses the right resume.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
All right, because she has been selling Kenya even before the tourism ministry approached her. She's been doing a good job. Every time she's in Malindi, she's taking selfies and tagging the lovely beaches there in Kenya. So I think it's she's earned that support. I don't know, what do you make of it, Jevon? Douglas.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
thank you. Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you, Miriam. And one thing that we need somebody. People are confusing. This is an ambassador for Magical Kenya internationally, but we have the local ambassadors who do the same. Therefore, people should not think that Kenyans were not given an opportunity, but this is at an international level. Now we have Naomi who will be able to do all that, and he is on record of championing for a cause of that we can bring tourists in this country. Therefore, she fits in that position, and Kenyans should not bring all these kind of misinformation. And I saw even Senator Millicent Omanga trying to point some points here and there that don't hold anything. And I think this kind of confusion and taking this empty politics to every situation in this country is what's bringing all these kind of people getting misinformed, and that is not right, especially when it comes to our leaders, because at the end of the day, we want to grow the tourism sector in this country, more even to the domestic tourism, and that is something that is quite taking shape, and the CS for Tourism has done a lot in keeping Kenya at the map of the world in terms of tourism destination, and he is giving them good offers when they come in this country. Therefore, that is the way we want to go, because we understand tourism on its own is a major source of income in this nation. Therefore, it's something that should be taken with seriousness, and serve such kind of people to take it even into a higher level.
Yes, indeed. And we know the tourism industry was the one that was hard hit, especially during this COVID-19, because they make their revenue out of the tourists that come into the country, majority of them, and a lot of hotels have closed down. So I think this is very timely. I don't know, Douglas, what is your opinion on Naomi Campbell being the tourism envoy for Kenya?
Thank you, Miriam. And I want to caution Kenyans from speaking from a point of ignorance and also from a point of no knowledge, because we all know when unpatriotism engulfs a nation, that nation will fall. The lips of patriotic Kenyans know what to say about Kenya, and the mouths of those who want to see Kenya fail so that they can blame it on a particular political function and also a particular political class will always say perverse things about Kenya. One thing that people don't understand is that when you become a celebrity in this country or anywhere in the world, that your life is no longer your own, including sleeping at your boyfriend's house. Your agents have to sanction that. When you go for a date, they sanction that. When they talk about Lupita today, Lupita will go for a lot of money in terms of advertising Kenya across the world and everything. Why have we not found his father using his pictures to promote Kisumu County? That he has the right to the daughter. In fatherhood, we say that you have complete and also some sort of around 70% absolute authority over your children. Why is Rupita Nyong'o not donning the billboards in Kisumu County? The reason is this, that the agents that she assigned are life and also are acting career on charges a lot of money. And these are the same Kenyans who have been telling us that we need to save money so that we can fight the pandemic and all that. Remember, Kenya has been given 6 months relief, debt relief, and also so that we cannot be able to pay for the next 6 months. And those resources can be channeled into fighting COVID-19 and also reviving the economy. Remember, Miriam, what Kenyans don't know, part of that deal is that Naomi Campbell is doing this pro bono. She's not picking a dime from Kenya. Naomi Campbell is doing that. She's doing that for free, and she's doing that to promote Kenya for the love of Marindi and also the love of Kenya. So when Kenyans speak, sometimes I wonder why they speak without knowledge, and also sometimes they are not patriotic to their country. The next one day they are talking about saving every coin to help their country come out of the ravages of COVID-19. The next minute they are talking about using international models like Rupita Nyong'o, who are going to go for millions of dollars to promote Kenya. Rupita, if she wants to do CSR about Kenya, she can go on and do that. But paying Rupita today and her agents is not the right thing to do. For Naomi Campbell and any other person internationally that would want, who has an international reputation, network, exposure, and also the skill to be able to market Kenya there, they can come together and also do that pro bono like Naomi Campbell has done. But Kenyans who are hell-bent on making sure the government of President Uhuru Kenyatta fails are always talking, including politicians like Millicent Omanga, who was appointed to at Kengen, and then she was appointed at Senate without any merit because she's a woman. At the end of the day, we need to have patriotic Kenyans. When you speak about Kenya well. When Naomi Campbell reads those comments, which I doubt she reads, about how Kenyans have taken that, she might withdraw tomorrow. And we might see that the people that would have wanted to come through Campbell networks, they will not be able to come. Remember, Rupita, that they are comparing with Naomi Campbell. Naomi Campbell has networks across European Union, as networks across America, and even in Africa. Yes, she can influence a lot of presidents and other people, personalities to come and visit Kenya, which Rupita has not reached there. And we need to be truthful to ourselves. And also, for the pro bono bit that she's doing, I commend her for the work that she's doing for our nation. Okay. And thank you.
All right, very well. Thank you so much. Patrick Osodo. Very good morning. You seem not to be watching us all the time because we've been talking about Uganda. We had a whole show the other day. We talked about Uganda yesterday. We talked about Uganda on Sunday. We shall talk about Uganda in the afternoon. And so, yes, we do talk about Uganda, and we understand that that is one of the leading stories across the continent of Africa, and Passionate Africa is a Pan-African television station. But in the morning show, usually we look at the news making headlines across Kenya. So thank you so much for watching Uganda. I shall come back with Uganda at around 3 p.m. So maybe you can join me then. But for now, thank you so much for watching. All right, we're joined by Professor Jared Onyari. Professor, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Miriam, Douglas, Kidi, and Javan, and our viewers wherever they are around the world.
All right, very well. Thank you so much. And on the front pages of the Star newspaper, Thuge to nail Rotich in dams scandal. XPS cuts deal with DPP Haji in a surprise move that threw former CS under the bus. The story is on page 6 of the Star newspaper, so let's just go through it and then I'll get your reaction. ODM lead, no, on page, where is that? They said page 6. But that is the ODM story. Come on, Star newspaper. You cannot number your content well. They said page 6, but that is not there. But this story on page 6, Thuge deciding to take a bid with the... All right, I'll perhaps get it from another newspaper because I think this is a very important story that we have been following here on what happened there in Kimoror and Aro Dam. But the Star newspaper, come on, you've let me down this morning. Your numbering is absolutely wrong. But there is another story. I'll look for it because it's important and we shall go through it. But first, let's look at another story on the Standard newspaper. The 4 pages there. And on page 6, it says, Justice Mwilu's lonely battle with the executive. As CJ Maraga departed in one of judiciary's most significant events, all pretense to government cordiality collapsed under the glaring absence of officials from the executive and the legislature. So apparently the executive and no member of parliament attended the sending off or the goodbye, the event that marked the end of CJ Maraga as the head of judiciary. I mean, that was a message enough, Professor.
Miriam, thank you for that question and observation. In this country, people are so much idle that they want to read every marriage. Miriam, we have had people getting out of office. Do you see every other arm of the government stopping what they were doing to go there? What is so big that the Chief Justice is going home? That it was a judicial affair. He came to bid farewell to his colleagues. That's how I read at it. But in this country, people will want to connect politics to everything else. Mm-hmm. I am not at a position to answer for Parliament and to answer for the Attorney General and the Executive. So they stand a chance. But that was just a normal retirement. This is not the first time we have seen the Chief Justice going on. What happened when Mutunga was going on? Did you see every other arm of the government going there to see that it's going on? So let us not read malice and let us channel our energy to doing positive things which can take this country forward.
Mm-hmm. All right.
And in any event, mm-hmm. if you want now me to move an extra mile to talk about politics, you know very well their working relationship has not been very well. The Attorney General and others. So if that was the case, maybe that's why they did not attend. But let us not have reading a lot of malice in everything which happens in this country. Mm-hmm. We like connecting everything to politics. How I wish that the people in this country will take more time to talk about the economy and the social development of this country and wait for 5 years to talk about politics. Miriam.
All right. Okay, very well. So all pretense, the story is on page 6 of the Standard newspapers, all pretense to government cordiality collapsed in the glaring absence of officials from the executive and the legislature at one of judiciary's most significant events. The Attorney General, who is also a member of the Judicial Service Commission and titular head of the bar and a former president of the Court of Appeal, was notably absent. Was this a message perhaps sent by the other arms of the government that perhaps this person that you're bringing and all these cases that she's having looming over her head, supporting her being there, but the law has to be followed? Was that a message you think was likely being sent, or as Professor is saying, we should not be reading politics in everything? Javan.
Yeah, thank you very much, Miriam. And the one thing, and I was telling you, even in the case of Naomi Campbell being made international ambassador for Magical Kenya, you see people bringing all politics, and even the functions of that was in the judiciary as a former Chief Justice was heading to his retirement. You see people bringing all kind of politics, that they are not working with the president. That is why there was no representative or the parliament and so on. But this was an arm of government that is independent. And the functions that they do, they are well distributed in the constitution. Therefore, this is an independent constitution. They don't work like intergovernmental department. This is a non-standing independent arm of government. And all their functions, they do it as their own. Therefore, there was no need of having to send all these members of parliament or their representative to that function. Then that was not, I think, the bigger function that we have in the judiciary is the swearing in of the Chief Justice. But when you're going for the retirement, I think you just need to go even without having all these kind of dramas. But when somebody new is coming, maybe if it was a swearing in, we could have seen people from all corners of this country, because maybe they have an interest in one or two. But all said and done, we have seen not a well working, the working relationship between the judiciary and David Maraga and the rest and the other arm of government. It was not that good. I think that was one of the reasons why maybe they felt they need not to go, because when he was in office, they were not in good terms. Why go when he is going home? And in all his tenure in office, you know the push and pull that was happening in the judiciary, the executive, and the registrators. Therefore, there's nothing big and there's no politics, but all is said and done. Maybe the people who we could expect it to be there are people who support the deputy president, because you have seen the David Maraga working well and having a kind of speaking from the same side with the deputy president. But well said and done. Let David Maraga go for his retirement in peace without disturbing anybody. And politics will not follow this old mzee as he goes to retirement. Let us wait who will come and take the role after he is gone.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Douglas Kireme. It might look like it's going to be a very long 6 months there for Justice Mwilu as in acting capacity as the Chief Justice, don't you think?
Miriam, like Jevan has said, what was so good for people to go there, leave their legislative duties, and also the president to go and see of Maraga, who nullified his election, and he didn't justify anything on why he had nullified that election. We have not seen anyone who messed up at IBC being taken to court. Again, why would the president go and see a corrupt human being like DCJ Mwilu, who has corruption cases and also left the court at a board of about 5 million? This is a corrupt, bloody thief who is also presiding over judiciary. Miriam, remember the other day we saw that the case on DCJ Mwilu cannot continue because the old man is sick, whereas we have very qualified lawyers in Nairobi and advocates of the High Court like Kidi Mwaga and the rest. We have also young girls who can represent Hebre. But we saw the old man, Dr. Amino, the court was told that Dr. Amino was sick and he doesn't want, because of his pre-existing conditions, he does not want to be exposed to court, to open court, physical court, so that COVID-19 cannot be able to ravage him. Miriam, this is a complete abuse of office from the former Chief Justice and also the acting Chief Justice, who have subverted justice, and the poor people of this nation have been jailed. Miriam, I know a couple of people who are ravaging in prison, in different prisons in this nation, and they are petty cases, whereas they presided together with the DCJ Mwilu of a very rogue judiciary. We have had people at the anti-corruption court like Douglas Ongoti and others who have been able to at least bring some sunshine on judiciary. But at this point, Miriam, I wish I was a president, I wish I was an MP, I wouldn't have attended the same, because this is pure marriage. I cannot attend, and this is pure blackmail. The president refused to assent to the nomination of 41 judges who are corrupt, and the NIS actually had a very damning report that I don't want to keep mentioning here about those judges. David Maraga was hell-bent on getting them nominated. David Maraga, I have no corruption case to paint on him, but he has sabotaged this government. He has completely lost the touch about his core mandate as a Chief Justice, and nobody would have wished to go and say goodbye to him. It would have been hypocrisy for President Uhuru Kenyatta, the MPs, to have gone to Maraga and tell him goodbye for the work done. There's nothing good Maraga has done for him to be congratulated. The only legacy he lives by is the legacy of corruption in the name of DCJ Mwilu, legacy of corruption in the name of rating poor people and poor masses in this nation who pain me so much, that are ravaging in their lives in prison because they cannot serve justice to this. If DCJ Mwilu cannot be jailed, why are the poor people jailed in prisons across this nation? They should release the poor people, the petty offenders, so that they can jail the acting Chief Justice DCJ Mwilu. But they have left the powers and everything to him for the next 6 months so that she can continue presiding over that. And that is what William Ruto wants, so that we can have corrupt elements there, so that we can have cases being delayed. Abuse of office. Miriam, at this point, we have a very wrong judiciary. I wish the president can be given powers to completely overhaul that judiciary, so that we can be able to have a clean judiciary at this point. Miriam, I feel so sad as a Kenyan this morning.
The president does not have those powers because the constitution was very deliberate to separate.
I said I wish, Miriam, because at this point we are tired as Kenyans. Imagine, Miriam, this is a corrupt thief who is the acting Chief Justice for the next 6 months. If Professor Jared Onyari has a case, it will be curtailed because he is a professor. But if Kidi Mwaga is a poor man from Meru or from Marachi in Busia, that case is going to take forever and they are going to die in jail. We have a very wrong acting Chief Justice and also a saboteur in the name of former Chief Justice David Maraga.
All right,
I have no guidance for that man and this corrupt woman there. I wish we have a loophole in constitution, we would have kicked her on Monday morning.
Okay, and some of those backlog of cases and all that, I think that is a problem that has plaguing a judiciary for a very long time. So we are hoping perhaps the next coming Chief Justice might try to see some efficiency there in the judiciary. Now, Justice Maraga's departure leaves a vacancy not only in the Chief Justice's office, but also in the GSC, where he was chair. It is expected that Justice Mwilu will issue notice of the Chief Justice's vacancy, but applications will not start rolling it in until mid-February. Should Justice Mwilu apply for the Chief Justice's job, the JSC's voting strength will be 9 votes, with presidential appointees constituting 4 of the 11 member slots in the commission. It is unlikely that the balance of power will remain in favor of non-presidential appointees. Kidi, are we likely to see Justice Mwilu applying for the Chief Justice's position? Because she can apply, but owing to everything else that she has to fight over and the courts that she has on the same these cases that she has on the same course that she will be heading, what is likely to happen? Can she run out of?
Well, before I answer your question, let me make a few observations and remarks because of my affiliation to the both the law profession and by extension the judiciary.
Mm-hmm.
First, my first comment will be premised on a Swahili saying that mgala muue na haki mpe. So that one, we will remember CJ David Maraga, that in spite of his failures as a human being, mm-hmm. he also managed to make certain scores that we cannot forget. Mm-hmm. One, if we talk about the history of the Supreme Court as the apex court of the land, you realize that by the dint of Article 140, the only original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court is determination of presidential petition. Mm-hmm. And you look at the jurisprudence developed by the Supreme Court when it first had the privilege to determine a presidential petition, mm-hmm. and scholars have concurred that they relied on a very wrong precedent that was coming in part even from military regimes to purport to use that to determine an election that was taking place in a supposed constitutional democracy. And you realize that made the Supreme Court begin to lose its luster. Mm-hmm. So when Maraga came in and the evidence was tendered before the Supreme Court, I want to respectfully disagree with the position of my brother Douglas, because I think the Supreme Court made a determination. Part of why some of us are opposed to the IEBC is that the IEBC has engaged in flagrant disobedience of the law. And in this case is the court order. For instance, Professor Nyari mentioned sometime in the back that the IEBC has not been able to tender, open its servers in direct disregard of our Supreme Court order. So I think that David Maraga made a few certain fundamental progresses that Punchline as a TV of repute, that is incisive, that is authoritative, cannot wish away. Mm-hmm. We must bring that out. Mm-hmm. Secondly, my second point is on what Ben Rhodes, who was President Obama's chief speechwriter and his advisor on foreign policy, says that in his book, Inside Obama's White House, Ben Rhodes says, and I quote, that the success of foreign policy relies on the development of personal diplomacy between heads of states. Mm-hmm. So in law, there is what we call the doctrine of separation of powers, as was developed by Montesquieu. But then you realize that over time, it proved that the doctrine of separation of powers is untenable. And therefore, the three arms of government must therefore work together. So it was redeveloped and called the doctrine of sharing of power between the arms of government. I want to submit that these arms of government can only work harmoniously and seamlessly if people heading them have a good personal relationship. And on that score, David Maraga, it seems, was unable to cultivate proper working relationship with the president. Mm-hmm. And therefore, we saw him giving press conference, speaking to the president through the press. All of us know that definitely has the net effect of capacity to soil an otherwise good relationship. And so on failure of Justice Maraga to cultivate personal relationship with the heads of different arms of government to ensure that there is a smooth sail, on that score, I would still want to fault Justice Maraga. Further and significantly, it must also be remembered that the legislature, working concertedly with the executive, defunded the judiciary in 2018, so that we must also be, as a TV of repute that we are, we must also pray that going forward, we hope the executive has learned the lessons that when any arm of the government is made weak, we all collectively suffer, because we've got a solemn duty to ensure that we strengthen our institutions, even if we do not like people who are heading them. Now, if I dive right into the heart of your question, is DCJ Mwilu going to apply to be considered for the role of the Chief Justice? I think in a constitutional democracy and in countries where we place premiums on personal honor, I do not think DCJ should run for office, should apply to be considered as CJ. The question is why? And I will answer that question by relying on the timeless words of Lord Denning, who says that if a reasonable man on the street goes home thinking the judge was biased, then the judge was biased. Further and significantly, relying on the determination of the Judges and Magistrates Vetting Board that was chaired by Sharad Rao, while removing Honorable Oriaga Omolo from office, they said that in the year 1991, 92-93, after the first multi-party general elections, that Justice Oriaga Omolo interpreted the law when he denied Honorable Matiba a chance to file a petition because the petition was signed by Honorable Matiba's wife. So when he did that, he did not inspire public confidence that he could stand up to an overzealous executive. In this case, and putting that into context, permitting a DCJ, permitting a person whose integrity has been questioned to head the judiciary would greatly erode the public confidence that we were seeking to inspire in the judiciary by setting up the Judges and Magistrate Vetting Board. In my humble submission, I think it would be imprudent for DCJ Mwilu to run for the office of the Deputy Chief, to run for the office of the Chief Justice. Thank you.
Very well.
Miriam, let me do a rejoin on that on Kiddy.
No, I'd like us to move forward because I also have to. Time is
just a minute, Miriam.
Just take 1 minute, please.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Kiddy, I want to ask you a very rhetorical question. What would have President Uhuru Kenyatta or the executive minus Uhuru Kenyatta would have done if the Chief Justice was calling for press conferences and crying for Mercedes-Benz and other necessities that are not necessary in execution of his duty as a Chief Justice? Again, if Chief Justice David Maraga did not recognize the President as the President of the Republic of Kenya, he considered the President of the Republic of Kenya as an equal to him, and he showed a lot of contempt for the President in so many ways. He had screamed in public that he is not consultant or called for any function at any public function, whereas he's supposed to show up like any other arm of the government. We have seen a Chief Justice that has been able to insist on President getting people who have tainted characters, and also we have never had the Chief Justice pronounce himself on corruption charges that have been preferred on his deputy. Again, this is a Chief Justice as a Kenyan, as a Rayman, that we need to understand why David Maraga performed the way he performed. Incompetence is not informed by me or any other ordinary Kenyans.
All right,
his incompetence in office has been informed by him and none other. I have no regrets in saying that I have no kind words for that man.
But Douglas, I would think, before you come in, Kiddy, Douglas, I would think that sometimes these national events or such, like, I think you require some formal invitation, if I'm not very wrong. I think that's what really happens. Sorry,
say that again?
Kitty, Douglas said there that the Chief Justice was supposed to be just showing up in these events just like any other Kenyan. That is the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya. And a lot of times those top officials or any other person that is required to show up in a national event, usually they're given some formal invitation. And that is the protocol, if I'm not very wrong. But I'd like for us to leave this matter to rest. Kitty, please. You have something you need to say to that. Because I need us to move... Okay.
Well, you see, I think that one thing that we must do, if we must do justice to our country, to Punchline TV Africa, and to our stakeholders, is that we will always be truthful as far as we can. Mm-hmm. And that is why we have to stand up to dark forces that are out to distract the people of Kenya from the good work that the president is doing.
Okay.
I think we must also be able to speak the truth that the chief, when the legislature defunded the judiciary in a big way, it undermined the judiciary's ability to perform. And I think that the headline that the Chief Justice was asking for a Mercedes was a small matter that was blown out of proportion. And it was a type of reporting that is synonymous with the far-right media houses in the US, like the Fox News and such. So that I think that Punchline TV will not take that line of.
Did he not ask for a Mercedes?
All right, we're done. We're done.
That would be
we're done with that matter. All right, Kidi, thank you. Douglas. All right, thank you so much.
Miriam.
Yes, Professor.
I have something to say because I see Kidi trying a little bit. I understand where it's coming from.
Okay.
Kidi, tell us this.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
A complaint has been launched to the Judicial Service Commission, where the Chief Justice, the President of the Supreme Court, and the Chairman of Judicial Service Commission.
Yes.
That this and this concerns your debut.
Yes.
How long does it take for that complaint to be dispensed? And the kid, you want us to assume it takes a year? It takes a year for it to be dispensed, and then you want us to agree you can do 99.9%.
Yes.
But that 0.1 portion is what makes us say that this man you are trying to say that he was good. Yes, he can be good.
So, Professor,
but on this,
Professor,
thank you. An element of corruption.
Thank you.
Douglas, no. Professor, what you're saying is,
I concede.
And what the Chief Justice was accused, especially when it comes to his deputy, the former now Chief Justice, was he was trying to shield her. Those are accusations that have been labeled against him. And so,
well, I concede in the interest of time.
Okay.
Yes.
In the interest of time, but not in the in the content.
Thank you.
All right. All right.
Thank you, Professor.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's go to Javen. I know you want to say something, but no, I'll come to you on the first question here. The story that I was looking for that the Star numbered wrongly. Star, you have to be clear about your numbering. Okay, the story is on page 2, but they said page 6. Why Thuge threw Rotich under the bus in Dam's case. The director of public prosecution, Nordin Haji, believes a former Treasury PS Kamau Thuge will help him nail his ex-boss Henry Rotich. Rotich, Thuge, and Koech were among 20 people accused involvement in the Aror and Kimorel dams contract with other top officials and directors of Italian firm CMC di Ravenna. But Thuge, who served under Rotich, struck a deal with the state prosecutor in which he might take to the witness stand against his former boss in the 64 billion Kenya shillings scandal. Javen, are we likely to see the end of this case, and are we likely to get over 64 billion Kenya shillings back?
Yeah, I think that should be our hope. I think that should be our hope.
That should be our hope, but in real sense.
The DPP is doing to ensure that maybe we recover that amount. But we have seen the politics around the Kimorel and the Arol Dams scandal. And one thing that we have was the deputy president initially saying that there was no money that was lost. Then he came out and said it was only 7 billion. As if 7 billion is amount that you just talk of it as not is something that is in neglect, amount that is so small that is pocket change. Then as things moved on, then it came to limelight that yes, there was corruption in the Kimorel and Arol dams, and that is why we had the PS, Thuge even, and others arraigned in court. But now things have turned out to be clear after investigation that maybe the bigger crocodiles, as we call the bigger fish, now are the one who are being caught. And on this case, Henry Rotich was the CS of Treasury on that time. And we understand with the politics that we have in this country, Henry Rotich was appointed from the words that are on the street to quote by the deputy president, because we are told that they will be given opportunity to have 50-50 share on the government in terms of having the ministerial position. Therefore, he came from that side. And we have seen the defensive side of the deputy president on the issue of Arol and Kimorel Dam to an extent to Kipchumba Murkomen and others. I think someone who was not quite on this issue and he was quite trying to distance himself was the governor of Elgeyo Marakwet, Alex Tolgos, who was trying to abet to add the bodies that are on this case to fasten things, and you could see the things, and I think that is why even today the governor of Elgeyo Marakwet and the senator, they don't read from the same script, because he happens to be supporting Gideon Moi rather than supporting the deputy president because of all these politics that we have in this country. Therefore, I think corruption should be dealt with without mercy and without even thinking these people should be in jail in the first place. Because if investigations point to Henry Rotich, I wish Henry Rotich will come out clearly to the public and tell us who was directing him to do this, who was he working on behalf, because we have seen that maybe he was not working independently. There were some forces that maybe were forcing Henry Rotich even maybe to work or this, how these tenders were given and how this money got lost. Because as the CS Treasury, you need to know all things. And I think that what caused the culmination to see Henry Rotich even being laid off from his duties as a minister. Therefore, it's a case that we are keeping an eye on it, because a lot of things will keep emerging. Because now, what I understand, Thuge has turned out to be a state witness. Therefore, he has information that the public don't have. And this is the right time as we move on to implementation of the referendum for the BBI, because it talks matter of corruption in deep analysis on how we should be dealt with, that this case should be fastened so that it brought up into speed, so that people who are capable of denying the residents of Elgeyo Marakwet surfaces in terms of water, they should be allayed in court. And the bigger fish, the DPP and the DCI, they should not work in fear or in favor. They should work prudently to ensure that the bigger fish in this country, because they are known, people who have been mentioned in all corruption scandals in this country, in KPLC, when you go to NHIF, there are people who have hands in all these major scandals, even in the NYS. They should be brought into speed. And it's not about any individual because they come from any political quota, but anybody, whether in government, whether in opposition, whether in government or in corporate world, they should be brought into speed, because corruption is cancer, as Professor calls it, and is sure it is, and it's affecting this country. They should be dealt with. And this should serve an example that is not good to deny the residents of this country basic services like water because of your own stomach. Thank you.
Okay, very well. Now the state could therefore drop the charges facing Thuge and Koech in return as the prosecution moves in to nail Rotich, who fell from the helm of Treasury after he was charged. The plea negotiations between the DPP's office and the two ex-PSs could present a major breakthrough in the high-profile graft case that has dragged for the last 17 months. On Tuesday, Assistant DPP Alexander Muteti informed Chief Magistrate Douglas Ogoti that the state was no longer interested in prosecuting Thuge and Koech, as they will now be as state witnesses. Douglas. Douglas.
Thank you, Miriam. And also, I think we have an opportunity now to recover the 64 billion that was stolen in Aror and Kimorel dams. And also, Miriam, congratulations to President Uhuru Kenyatta for building Webuye Marava Road, a 60 kilometers road at a cost of 60 billion.
Can we look
Miriam,
at that first?
When we do simple mathematics.
Yes.
Yes, Miriam?
I'd like for us to look at that before we bring other issues so that we're able to exhaust that and go to another topic.
No, yes. There is something I want, there is somewhere I'm coming to.
Okay.
With this road that was done in Webuye to Maraba, 60 kilometers road at a cost of 60 billion. Now, forget about Arora and Kimwarel. If this 64 billion was not stolen by William Ruto and his surrogates, this 64 billion would have built 6 billion each road at 60 kilometers across the nation. They would have built 14 roads across the nation at a cost of 60 billion, 60 kilometers, and that adds up to 840 kilometers across the nation. And remember, we would have been left with the 4 billion that would have now be used to have been added to the Kazi Mtaani now as an emergency. If we were in 2020 and there is COVID, we would have added that 4 billion to the kit that President created to mitigate the effects of COVID-19 to the young people. Remember, the 64 billion that was stolen in Kimwarel would have been used to construct more roads, around 14 roads at a cost of 60 billion, 60 kilometers each, 840 kilometers. But William Ruto and his surrogates have been able to steal these monies, these monies. Eligio Marakwet, Senator, and all the people that support William Ruto who have been feeding from his corrupt hand. Miriam, this is an insult to the people of Kimwarel and also taxpayers, especially me, who is paying for William Ruto to move around calling himself a son of a poor man who has been stealing these resources. Again, Miriam, I hope that Kamau Thuge is going to hand over crucial information that is going to nail William Ruto and his people so that they'll be barred from running for office, so that they can go to jail, and also so that we can sell his assets and recover our 64 billion.
Okay, so now Juma Smith, you're saying Rotich was on Uhuru's side. They worked together in Treasury. Now, according to the story on page 2 that I'm reading on the Star newspaper, and by the way, very good morning to you, Juma, and the rest of our viewers who are watching us. The story that you're reading, it says, after the DPP ordered Rotich's prosecution, Deputy President William Ruto's allies accused the state of selective prosecution, targeting the DP's associates for political reasons. So now what are you saying? Kidi?
Well, one thing I wanted to say from the outset is that there is something we call plea bargaining. And plea bargaining is usually is a new development in law that is seeking to ensure that the law helps us recover rather than just to punish. So that in the state, in its infinite wisdom, choosing not to prosecute PS Thuge and instead to have him as a state witness, one will help us understand how this whole corruption was devised and executed, and 2, it will help us ensure that this money is recovered. Secondly, about the associates of the DP being targeted, I think that anyone who would advance such a narrative would be disingenuous, to say the least, because, corruption has a way of making all our lives poorer, irrespective of who is engaged in it. So that, for instance, the position taken by Governor Tolgos of Elgeyo Marakwet should be seen from the perspective of someone who is advocating for accountability in public office, and not as someone who is opposed to William Ruto or who is canoodling with Gideon Moi. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, Professor, still on the same matter, after the DPP ordered Rotich's prosecution, Deputy President William Ruto's allies accused the state of selective prosecution, targeting the DP's associates for political reasons there. Should we just leave politics out of this so that the law can take its course, and then at the end of the day, if he's found not guilty, he will be exonerated, if he's found guilty, then the law will go ahead and just do its thing? Too much politicking around this matter.
Miriam, one does never cease. And sometimes I regret for being in Kenya in this point in time. Miriam, this is taxpayers' money, which had been budgeted to go and dig some dams in Kimwarel and another dam in Elgeyo Marakwet. And then, Miriam, what we are being taken in cycles. And I can tell you, Miriam, Chava Douglas is saying that we are going nowhere. I'm telling you, free. I can tell you. This is one way they are of isolating each other. Remember, the PS is the accounting officer. So you can't go and bargain and say that the CS told you. No, the CS is a policy, is implement policies. And even say what the magistrate has said, that you go and bring Italians to come and be charged here in Kenya. How are they going to be charged? How long is it going to be taken for Italians to be removed from Italy to come and be charged here in Kenya? Miriam, it tells a lie. But Miriam, that is a simple, straightforward case. Imagine I wish that case was being given village elders and not be given these lawyers that Kinakili, who had a problem of going to Jesus and asking, what do I need to do to inherit the kingdom of God? You want to tell me that lawyer never knew what to do for him to go to heaven, to inherit the kingdom of God? You know, they will coin and twist Miriam. If we gave money for Aaron and Kimorel down Miriam, and the money was siphoned to buy some towels and bed sheets of a certain hotel, Miriam, for somebody. What evidence do we need, Kiddy? What is the connection between an hotel and building and a dam, bed sheets and towels? You want to tell me that if you give me the village elders in the morning and you give the little cash they get, Miriam, by noon they should have got somebody, kill it and send him to jail. So Miriam, this one, you are going to move Tuge to go and witness against the CS, Miriam. This is a case which has corruption or arrival. That is one way of using to isolate. And from where I sit, Miriam, there is no commitment. I have looked at it. I've seen what the orders which the magistrate has said. We are going to bring Italians. Up to this point, Miriam, is when you are going to bring Italians to be joined in the case.
17 months later.
Surely. Kid, you should help us. You should help Kenya and put him. And Miriam, let me tell you.
Yes.
Well, Miriam, are you done?
Let me just make one sentence and then you do this.
All right.
Yes.
Go ahead, Professor. Finish.
These people should stop and Miriam and go to the person who said it is only 7 billion. That is the man of interest in that case. It is not, he was saying, it is not 21 billion, it was 7 billion as if it is 7 things. And even a 50-cent Miriam, which belongs to the people of Kenya, must go for the benefit of people of Kenya. I submit, Miriam.
Okay, very well. Thank you so much.
Miriam.
Yes, now that he's called your name, the lawyers apparently, respond quickly and then we move to the next item.
Yes. Well, corruption has got a way of inflaming our collective anger as a country, especially if we look at the potential we lose through corruption. The lives would have changed for the better if these monies were spent wisely and prudently. And I therefore understand Professor's anger, because Professor is wondering why it has taken so long since the time these folks left office to date, when they are still thinking about bringing in Italians. But then, so that you hear that in Professor's tone, he almost wants instant justice. But then the plea bargaining was designed to ensure that that we can recover as much as we reasonably can, so that we do not only punish but also recover the stolen monies. So that the other thing we must also point out is there is a problem in the office of the DPP. You see, we've said that there were a backlog of cases during Maraga. One thing we've failed to point out is that there are instances when DPP has prosecuted its matters in the press, so that it goes to arrest people on Friday evening, detains them in the police station, takes them to court on Monday. It takes people to court. They take people to court while they don't have evidence. They've not concluded investigation. There is so much loose ends, so that the net effect of such arrest is to create an impression that we are fighting corruption while we are substantively doing very little. I think going forward, especially in the year 2021, the office of the DPP must have a coordinated approach in the fight against corruption. Thank you.
All right, very well. And I think one of the things you've raised there, I think the former Chief Justice now, David Maraga, said, fine, you bring us these cases, but the evidence that is brought from the DPP, are not watertight. So since we're going through the law, we have to look at the Constitution and what it says. So we find ourselves, having to release all these people because, even President Uhuru Kenyatta complained, expressed his frustration actually about the leniency when it comes to the judgments, especially some of which are made in our courts in the matters corruption. So I totally understand that, and even the CJ expressed his prosecution. So I think for the wheel of justice to really go on very well, all these stakeholders must do their part so that all the loose ends are tied, Kidi. That is what I'm hearing you to be saying. All right. So on page 7, as we conclude the show, Wahome summoned for claiming state-planned kennel chaos. The Cohesion Commission has summoned Kandara Member of Parliament Alice Wahome to appear before it on Thursday on charges of hate speech. The lawmaker is being sought for saying the state planned the attack on IPCA church last October. 2 youths, Peter Mbothu and Christopher Karaoke, died in the chaos that greeted DP William Ruto's tour of the area. MP Wahome, in the statement as transcribed by the NCIC, says the security team was part of the plan to attack the AIPCA church. And then I'll skip down there, and it says the NCIC in the summons says MP Wahome's words were calculated as hateful. It holds that the utterances are likely to affect harmonious coexistence between communities living in the Mount Kenya region. You, a Member of Parliament, are hereby required to appear at the Commission's office on Thursday, January 14th at 10 a.m. so as to assist the Commission with the ongoing investigations. Since she said she knows the security apparatus perhaps knew about this, so maybe she will come in handy as a witness and perhaps go and tell the police what really happened. But Alice Wahome, she's being summoned and for hate speech there. Javan.
Yeah, thank you very much. And we have seen this case, and there was last time after that event, the week that followed, they were asked to report to DCI offices in Nyeri. But what they did with his counterpart, Kiharu Member of Parliament, did in Nyoro. But they didn't do that. Therefore, in this country, we have a problem when it comes to obeying even the law and even abiding to what law says, and even obeying court orders. I think we have a people, we have that tendencies of not following what the Constitution or the law says. And this issue that could have been brought into speed when it was hot and when it was in the public tongues. But what we see now is the timing is also, yes, they could be taken to court and be charged. But Miriam, at this time, the investigation, what is the investigation that have been done? You need to know who caused the chaos, not just to go there and report for the sake of hate speech, because you have seen members of parliament, all of this country accused of hate speech. Prior to 2017 general election, we see the Johnson Muthama, Moses Kuria taken to court because of the same. But what happened after that? They were released. Therefore, in this country, it's like there are a lot of jokes when it comes to taking the law seriously. And these hate mongers to be allayed in court of law and be jailed, because not just going to court and being charged and then you go scot-free. Let you remain in custody and maybe in a prison, so that we serve as an example even to others who want to go that route. We saw when Member of Parliament Oscar Sudi and his counterpart Johanna Ngeno altered the same words that amount to hate speech. Nothing serious was done. Therefore, these things are there, and it's just shifting and taking Kenyans around. I think this NCIC thing should be done away with, and we bring a commission that is vibrant, that is up to occasion, that we deal with these people without fear or favor, because it's like a sleeping, this NCIC is a sleeping giant. There are people who don't know what they are doing there, because they take time. What were they doing since October to date? And we need to have seen this thing taken in speed. Therefore, this NCIC commission is part of the commissions that we have in this country, but they are sleeping on their job. They are not doing well. And I think it's time we change the leadership of this NCIC and other commissions that are sleeping in their job. And we saw when we had even the EACC, the DPP, sometimes back it was not working as it is doing now. It nowadays is working quite well because of the leadership that we have at Nuruddin Haji. Okay. Therefore, it is time that we change the leadership at NCIC so that these people should be taken in a court of law. But Miriam, well said and done. Our politicians should refrain themselves from using incitement towards Kenya. But also, in the definition of a hate speech, we tend to have the definition of what amounts to hate speech is something that should be elaborated to the public so that they also understand which language amount to hate speech. Because you have seen even people who are taken in courts who have not even incited anybody, but just because they altered some words in their native language, they are said amounts to incitement. Therefore, we need even to have a clear definition of what incitement amounts to, because tribalism and this negative hasrarism agenda that we have, to me, to some extent, I think it's amount to incitement, because when you incite people against who have and those who don't have, is that not incitement? Those things should be brought into speech so that we understand what really incitement and hate mongering amounts to, so that Kenyans will also understand when a leader makes this, they should also be in front line of pushing them to be taken to a court of law. But without that understanding and ignorance that we have as Kenyans, that is why you see even Kenyans are not interested, and they tend to buy that language that is not good, that language that is dirty. That is what they like to get from their politicians, because they have made that a norm of our country. It is time that we change wholesomely the politician and Kenyans, because if these politicians don't have an audience to take their bad language and the filthy language that they use, then they will stop doing that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. And I think maybe something you've raised there that is quite important, Javen, that perhaps the public a lot of times do not know what constitutes a hate speech. And so maybe we should have some civil education, especially as we quickly are approaching an active political campaigning season. We'll see a lot of that. So maybe we need some sensitization. But our members of parliament, they know. Our leaders, they know what that is. So now, according to this letter, take further notice that unless you appear in person at the aforementioned place, date and time, the Commission shall institute contempt proceedings against you with the attendant consequences. She failed to appear when she was summoned at first, so now she's been summoned again. Douglas Kirimi, Alice Wahome, is she likely to honor these charges, this summons, this time?
I don't think so, Miriam, and thank you for that question, because remember, these are people who are pushing independent institutions and also the government to move and also make a move on them. When a move is made on them, then they'll take that to their advantage. And remember, at one time, they were summoned together with the MP for Kiaru, the Honorable Dende Nyoro, and they didn't show up. They had to call a press conference saying that government wants to victimize them, government want to do this and this to them. Remember the other day, Uhuru Kenyatta was saying that government wants to kill him, and also making very malicious crimes at the parliament buildings. What these Tanga people are doing, they are taking advantage and wiping emotions. And remember, this kind of wiping emotions across the nation, this is what led to the post-election of 2007-2008, and Kenya was thrown into flames, and no politician died at that time, Miriam. Remember, 1,300 Kenyans died, and the other people, I think, who ran away from this country, who we cannot be able to account for. And also there are also people now who can no longer access their farms in Rift Valley and other parts of the country because of the post-election violence. There are people who lost their businesses because of these politicians. People like Aris Wahome, who is also a lawyer, understands the law, understands what constitutes hate speech. We have never had a Mijikenda calling out a person from Embu or Kirinyaga or Mandera. We have never had someone from the Godia clan calling out someone in Bondo. We've had our politicians move and also make these speeches. I don't think Aris Wahome or any other Tanga person, function member is going to adhere to the rules and regulations of this country. Remember, the upholding of rule of law is what is going to make sure that this country is not thrown into flames. Remember, Kenya is bigger than Aris Wahome and his Tanga function. And also remember, Aris Wahome has nothing to lose. She is old. She is an old woman. What she is doing, she is destroying Kenya for the future generation and also younger people like us. We need to also call out Aris Wahome for hypocrisy, and also people like Aris Wahome who keep advising William Ruto on the wrong things. Remember, William Ruto, in as much as also he is an evil man, he is also having bad advisors like Aris Wahome, who cannot honor summons to NCIC, police stations, and they keep breaking the law every day. And Miriam, this is my call to Kenyans, not to listen to people like Aris Wahome. Aris Wahome is an old woman who has also done a bit in this country. She has been a lawyer and also an MP. Miriam.
Old women are wise, no?
Yes, please.
She's not that old now.
No, Miriam, she's very old. I'm 28 years old, and that she is even older than my mother. And I have to say that
let's not
Miriam,
use that. Let's not use the age thing there.
Okay, Miriam, sorry,
Yes.
I substantiate. But
Yes.
one thing I need to be very clear on is that, Miriam, this woman and other people in Tanga function are very wrong. When they are called to police stations, they run calling the press so that they can keep wiping the crass struggle, the crash between Asuras and dynasties, narrative that the dynasties want to kill us. Remember, Uhuru Kenyatta was wiping emotions the other day. Today, Aris Wahome is going to call a press conference, I think somewhere in Muranga or some other place, saying that I'm not going to honor these summons. And it is very wrong. When the rule of law is not upheld in a country, we are going to set a very bad precedent for this nation. Who wants to come and arrest me tomorrow when they cannot arrest Aris Wahome? Who wants to arrest me when they cannot arrest Dende Nyoro when they make these claims? Who wants to arrest me tomorrow when they can go to a police station and call a press conference? I can equally call for a press conference and say I cannot honor those summons. And this is going to form a very bad precedent in this country, and we don't want such things to happen in this country.
Okay, thank you so much, and a very happy new year to you, Okoa Jackie. Nice to see you this new year. I hope the new year has started off well. Baba Shiro, good morning. What is the problem? All right, Akidi Mwaga, is Alice Wahome likely to honor these charges? Because it appears NIC there has said if you don't come, there will be some consequences. Kidi. All right, Professor, you'll end it for
the old man that I am, Miriam, I'm sorry. Well, I was saying...
Kidi, you'll be reprimanded. Go ahead.
The reason why we surrendered all instruments of violence to the state is that if and when one is unable or unwilling to obey the law, then definitely there must be sanctions. That the fear of sanction in itself is more often than not what inspires the obedience to the law. Alice Wahome should not set the precedent, and his Tanga colleagues must not set the dangerous precedent that they make inflammatory statements, and then when called to account, when given an opportunity to respond to those allegations by the dint of the principle of natural justice, that they then want to undermine the very institutions that should ensure that our collective cohesiveness as a nation is guaranteed. So I don't think there is, she has a two-way about it. She just have to, and if she does not honor those summons, then let the full force of the law prevail against her.
All right. Okay, thank you, Kidi. Professor, I think it's only right because these statements she made publicly, and a lot of things, they are quite weighty. So if the police wants her to go and give this statement so that perhaps investigation can take place, it's only right that she honors these summons, don't you think? And will she honor these summons?
That is a very good question. When I was growing up, I used to stay with my grandmother. And my grandmother would tell me stories, good stories. I could sleep. When I wake up, I will find my grandmother going on narrating the story. The old mama did not know that I had slept. This is what we are being taken, Miriam, over and over. This incident happened in October. Life was lost. And Miriam, this way sometimes kids say that sometimes get annoyed. You know, some things sometimes Miriam annoys me. Someone died.
Two people
that
died.
Was not a rat. That was not a chicken. That is the blood of a human being. That is a brother of someone. And by the way, the one who died, he left a very young kid. Was Miriam again with the African culture, Miriam. There was one who was the only son. And you can see the agony that kind of family is going through. Miriam, I wish that the National Cohesion Commission was disbanded. Do you know why? Give me any person whom they have successfully investigated and prosecuted and jailed. Kiddy is here. Give me one. Since his inception.
Kiddy, are you representing them?
Yes, I'm listening. I'm listening.
No, you can tell me that, oh, this one was done, this one was done, this was done.
Okay.
So, Miriam, these are things which are taking us in circles. If Alice Wahome Miriam, she has been saying that she cannot go to the police and go on accusing them, accusing the intelligence. Then I think, Miriam, the opportunity has come for her now to take evidence. If national cohesion is seriously investigating and want to prosecute. But I can tell you, it is only Kenyans who are being taken in cycles. How I pray, Miriam, that we should be guided by the rule of law. And I have said that if we should spend more time on economy and social development in this country, Miriam, I'm telling you, Miriam, in 5 years, Kenya will change. But we start an election we finish an election and we start talking about the election just going round, just going round, just going round. So Miriam, on this, Alice Wahome, I have been watching her and sometimes I agree with Douglas, although sometimes he uses some words. For heaven's sake, Douglas, call her the honorable member.
Yes, not
for
that
Kagumo.
woman.
Because it's honorable and those people elected and she has betrayed their trust. So that this show, we look at about that we have got respect for our mothers and our sisters.
Absolutely.
So Miriam, let me just hope that she has been given an opportunity because she has been crying that she has got nowhere where she can go and report. But again, you are going to see the kind of reactions she's going to do. She's going to call the press and you are going to see them seeing her castigating. But I want to see that let her just go tomorrow and give any evidence which she has so that we can see that we can be able to fight crime and fight hate speech.
Absolutely. Honorable Alice Wahome, I think it will be prudent because the issues you've raised, I think, are quite weighty. And so if you can go there and make a statement and perhaps your evidence will help further with investigations of this incident that happened there in Kenol last year that saw 2 young men lose their lives. I think it will be very good for you to do that, Mheshimiwa, all right? Thank you so much. So we have to come to the end of our show. Oko Ajak, you're saying you love Kenya, is your second home and you're watching us all the way from Ethiopia, Gambala. So we'll come back at 11 a.m. Juma Smith.
Miriam,
I hope you will be joining us. You want to?
Can I do a small rejoinder in 1 minute to Professor, please?
I'd like to end the show, Douglas, but just 1 minute.
I want to do a rejoinder on that
right.
in a minute. My dear Professor Jared Onyari, I'm sorry for that, and I said I have substantiated, but I have always called her a member of parliament for Kandara.
All right.
But the way she irritates people and also the way she does to the people, actually, I'm overcome by emotions and I'm also human. Okay. So sometimes she is wiping emotions across the nation. So when sometimes I'm overcome by emotions, you need to forgive me as my father, and I'm sorry. I respect women, I respect everyone, and I respect the member for Kandara, but what she is doing, it is very evil.
And you mentioned also she's older than your mom, so
understood.
Let's respect that. All right, thank you so much. Thank you, Douglas, for that. I appreciate that. Thank you for that. Professor, thank you so much. Kidi, thank you, and as well as Karanja from Nanyuki, thank you. Munene Kamundi, tunaangalia headlines. Na ukiona headlines this morning, it is Ruto. Ukiangalia headline ingine, The Standard, it is Ruto. And we're looking at the news-making headlines this morning. So what do you want us to look at? We're not just waking up here thinking today we're going to talk about Ruto. We come here and we look at the news-making headlines. And when you look at the headlines, it is Ruto. And so we are coming back at 11 because of the headlines about Ruto. And now Mudavadi goes for Ruto and so wants him out. So to impeach or not to impeach? Will you join us here at 11? Because I'd like to hear your opinion on this. All right? Thank you so much for watching. My name is Miriam Ogutu. A very good morning to you.